Before I go to Lieutenant Hauck, we want to talk about Orlando. Rich is on the line in Paris. Good morning, Rich. You have the floor.
All right. Well, I don't listen to your show every day, but I listen enough to say, I hear, you go on with stories, and most of it, sometimes you get into the story, and what you start out to be saying isn't exactly what the story's about. Now sometimes you claim you're a talk show, sometimes you claim it's a media, and it's kind of a double standard. Now, I'm not sticking up for Claudia Tenney. Politics make me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
But don't come across that you're this holy roller and you fact check everything. Sometimes you read a headline and you just go off on your own.
Well, that'd be called opinion.
It is. But now you're a news outlet, right? You fact check all these things.
No, I'm saying that we dug in to a story and we fact checked it. And we
you fact check every story that you go out on the air with.
We do, yeah.
No, you don't.
I don't? Okay. You're right. I just wing it.
Bill, I've heard a few times where you start reading and somebody will step in or all of a sudden you have to correct yourself and you admit, well, I didn't really read the whole story.
Okay. So you're right.
Okay.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay.
Have a nice day.
You too, Bill.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Andrew, fact checked him. I don't like him. Could you get on that quickly? Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
I love this job. Okay, Orlando. I want to talk about Orlando a little bit, and which is why you're here. And I have the sheriff waiting, and he's been waiting for a half an hour, and nobody makes him wait, and we've done that, and I apologize greatly for that. So, one of the questions on Orlando is when the police went in. Should they have gone in when they went in? They stormed. People are now saying that it's possible that maybe some of the victims actually weren't injured until police actually went in.
Right.
What do you from a police standpoint? What do you?
Well, I know that a lot of the criticism was that there was a 2-hour window from the time that the shooting started to the time the police made entry, and the criticism was that more people were killed or more people died that maybe perhaps could have been saved in that 2 hours.
Yeah.
One of the things with law enforcement is obviously it's not a science. It's you try to use your training, use previous experiences to train your officers so that the next time something happens in a similar way, they hopefully can react in a better way. So I go back to Columbine, which was really in this country probably our first real big sort of mass murder that at least in recent history.
Yeah.
And prior to Columbine, we had what we referred to as surrounding call out. So you surround the location and, you call in or use an air horn or a bullhorn to try to call the person out and try to resolve it that way. That changed. Columbine changed it because when police responded, they waited and waited and waited and more people were killed.
Because you have those visions of the 70s. Remember when someone would go in, they would hold hostage. Obviously, you had stuff that happened with the Israelis and the that was different. But most of those cases, they just held a hostage and they were looking for something.
Right.
Now the new dynamic is they're looking for something, and that is
body count.
And the news story that comes afterwards.
Right. It's a body count thing. So the training has changed considerable over the years, and it's gone to now where you go, if you've got one officer, two officers, three officers, then that's what you use.
Yeah.
And you go to the shooter, you eliminate the shooter as quickly as you can, as fast as you can. And that means bypassing victims and just you get to the shooter and you stop it because in like 40% of the time in these active shooters, when police arrive or police confront the suspect, they take their own life or they're immediately eliminated by law enforcement. So that's what the training has been. This was unique in the respect that the shooting occurs, and then law enforcement is there. He stops.
He stopped and he actually, the guard at the front door was armed. He's a off-duty police officer.
Right. Exchange gunfire.
He got exchange gunfire. The guy gets by him, takes hostages.
Well, what happened was that he exchanges gunfire initially. And he's obviously outgunned. He's got a handgun versus, a rifle.
Right.
And then a couple of other officers responded very quickly. They were close by. They got this. So there's three officers. He retreats into a bathroom where there happen to be hostages. So it's in a bathroom. They try moving out people out of the building. Eventually, what happened was they used some explosives. So a 2-hour conversation ensues over the phone, and so that's unique in the respect that it's not an active shooter now.
Right.
It was,
right,
but the shooting's over. Now, once the threat goes, because apparently his rhetoric got big, more threatening.
Well, you're hearing ISIS comments, and now
Threatened
all of a
shooting,
sudden you're thinking
threatened
about
explosives.
Yeah.
So now they make a dynamic entry. They use explosives. They use a Bearcat to get in. When they do, he comes out of the hole, and they exchange gunfire, and he's killed. But that's where it's unique in the respect that he stopped, but didn't kill himself or continue to shoot. Because I fully believe that if he had continued to shoot, they would have made an entry.
They would have gone right in.
Right.
Yeah.
But, of course, the criticism is, geez, in 2 hours, how many people could have been saved had they got to the hospital? So, I suspect that this is something that, they'll do an after-action report.
Yeah.
It'll be shared with law enforcement, and perhaps you'll see the training change.
Problem is, though, the hindsight on so many of these situations, how do you know?
You can't
don't
prepare
know
for every
what's in
scenario.
that guy's head. That's
Can't.
the difficulty.
Right, because your goal is to save life.
Right.
And if there's not an active shooter actually going on, the protocol is to try to negotiate your way out of it.
Yeah.
That's what law enforcement is going to try to do. And because it was a shooting but then stopped, now it would automatically go to hey, let's try to see if we can stop him from doing more damage.
I know this is a completely different topic, but that high-speed chase that happened down in the valley, the woman that led police on a high-speed chase last week ended up getting on the thruway, and police stopped. They let her go.
Yeah.
And the reason is they had her information, and they waited, and they waited, and they waited, and sooner or later she came home, and that's when they arrested her. Saving lives. That's really a saving lives moment right there.
Absolutely. And that's something, again, that's something law enforcement has learned over the years, is if you can identify the person, or if the crime is not a great... Now, I suspect in that, if this was, say, a shooting or a homicide or something like that, now the crime comes into it, and wow, okay, now this is a very serious crime. We need to stop this person, at all costs.
Yep.
They would have probably continued, but, it was obviously less than a serious crime.
I'd like to say, and I'll wrap this up, I'd like to say you approve of what they did or you disapprove. It's really hard to do it. You follow strategy, and you have policy, and you follow it, and you hope it's the right, because you just don't know what that guy's thinking.
Right, and that's the thing is, I'm sure they did the best they could to try to. There's always going to be critics, of course, but I think they did the best they could to try to stop a horrific situation. That there is no playbook for that. You just try to do the best you can.
Formerly Lieutenant Steve Hauck, thank you, appreciate it. I got a break. Coming up, the sheriff, and then our $300 free money question of the day. Give you a chance to maybe walk away this morning with $300 of Joe Habaika's money. Coming up on WIBX.